Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number LB4311-400-646. This is a single-acting spring hinge, full mortise, residential weight, lube bearing, steel base, and satin nickel plated. Okay, let's dissect that part number. First of all, LB stands for lube bearing. That means that it is a concealed, maintenance-free type of bearing construction, proprietary to Bommer. Okay, the 4311 is a reference to the treatment of the corner and the location of the screw holes. Really, there is a link below this video to the template, which shows everything important dimensionally about the item, and you're going to see from that this is a typical, what is called a template pattern, is what this is. Common, regular pattern. Some people will call it a crescent shape. It's just, if you've got a regular hinge, it's very likely a 4x4 with a 1/4 inch radius. You very likely have this template pattern, but not necessarily so. You could have a different pattern. There are several related to the manufacturer of the door and frame. However, the way to be sure is to click on that template, take that template printed out to your existing door installation, and compare your location of the screw holes to this hinge and its layout. So the 4311 means template pattern and this 1/4 inch radius. The -400 is a reference to the size of the hinge. This hinge is 4 inch tall. This hinge is 4 inch wide. This hinge is 96 thousandths of an inch thick, which is residential grade is what that's considered, and it's going to work with preparations from 85 to 109 thousandths, okay, without really any trouble. It's a 646 hinge, and that means it's satin nickel, but it also means it's steel. So it's satin nickel finish on a steel base versus satin nickel finish on a brass base. This is a steel-based hinge, and it is full mortise. You can see from the swag on the hinge leaf there that when the leaves are brought parallel, they're meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame. And it is a single-acting spring hinge. First of all, before we go further, screws are included in a complementary finish. Looks like you're getting all wood and all metal screws, which is atypical. You generally... No, it's typical. Getting all wood and all metal would be normal for this hinge. It's a single-acting spring hinge. Let's talk about that now. There is a chart below this video which shows, or at least a guide below this video that says up to 85-pound doors, 2 spring hinges and a regular hinge. 110-pound door, 3 spring hinges. Assuming that you're dealing with doors only up to 3070 in size, 1 3/4 inch thick. If you were to use 2 spring hinges, the axis of pivoting is compatible with a regular 4.5x4 hinge, so it's completely interchangeable. I'm a fan of all spring hinges, not for the obvious reason, but because having installed these, set these, maintained these, removed these, made them work when they weren't working, I have found a greater success in getting the door to not only close, but to latch when I've got reserve spring power on hand. It's like a tugboat, how I liken it. They don't go very fast, but they can pull a lot of weight. When you've got excess spring power, meaning 2 when you should have 1 spring hinge if you had an extremely light door, or 3 when you would normally have 2 spring hinges, you have residual stored energy in that spring. Now, the spring has got to overcome the door going in the opposite direction, stopping the door, and then getting it from a dead stop into the closing cycle of the opening. It has to overcome the weight of the door, the resistance of the air, the resistance of the latch bolt striking the strike plate in the frame. You want to be able to have the door latch without slamming. If you're underpowered in the spring tension area, if you're underpowered in the quantity of springs, people will end up turning the tension up so high just to get the door moving so that there's enough inertia just to get it to latch. That's unsafe. And if it's a fire door, you've got 2 requirements. You've got requirements for a fire door. But in terms of the hardware, you've got the requirement of it being self-latching and self-closing. Self-closing, but self-latching. It's no good if the door isn't latched closed. It's no good if the door isn't getting all the way closed or too fast and bouncing back open. Now, any questions on that, feel free to reach out. I can discuss that with you at length. They're not very expensive, and if you're going to go with 2 when you need 1 or 3 when you need 2, whatever, occupy the top hinge first, the middle hinge, and then the bottom at the last. In my experience, that works best. Setting the tension is simple. This is called a tension collar. It's got the holes in it. There's not one down here. This is installed towards the top of the door. It's good for a left-hand or right-hand door. You're going to have included a tension rod. It's a black piece of steel. I've got it sticking out of the edge of the bag. And a tension pin. There's one right there. This package actually has 2 because this client's order has 2 hinges. Insert the tension rod into one of the holes and turn it clockwise. That's the magic way to do it. Turn it clockwise. And as you do so, you reveal new additional holes. It's into one of those new holes that you will insert a tension pin. No more than 3 holes, please, on setting the tension. You don't want the spring to distort when the door opens all the way. And that's how you set the tension. So get your door hung, set your tension at the very end, you're in really good shape. Installation instructions are below this video. You can link to the link is there. They're also, if your hinge comes in a box, they're printed on the back of it. If not, you've got the link there. Available in several different finishes from Bommer, available in several different sizes as well. The last thing I'd like to point out is the Bommer logo. And right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. Any questions on the Bommer number LB4311-400-646 single acting spring hinge or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us.